Last week, I posted two interviews I did with Eric Metaxas, the author of Bonhoeffer. He's a great brother, great friend, great intellect, and great man who's got a new book out now called Seven Men. You should go get it. You should also go like him, his Facebook page, ericmetaxas.com, and get to know him. He's a great American and patriot. This is the third and last of the interview that I did with him in New York City in my hotel room the night before I did Fox and Friends. So we just ended the second interview about the idea of where is America and is it similar to where Germany was prior to the Nazis taking over. One wouldn't think that that would be an accurate description of America. I'm afraid you're in for disappointment when you hear his take on where we are and where Germany was. It's interesting, though. Hope you learn from it. Hope you enjoy it. And here we go. Eric Metaxas and me, part 3.
Historical ignorance on people's part. They immediately think of the Holocaust. 1933, 1935, there's no dream of a Holocaust.
Right.
Nobody's thinking of butchering millions of human beings. It's all something that is just not thinkable.
Yeah.
But how did they get to a point where it was even possible? Well, you start the journey of, what is it, 1,000 miles starts with a single step. I mean, first, they had to eliminate religious freedom in Germany. And Hitler was very smart. He's not going to come out and say, I am not a Christian, I hate Christians. They were very canny, and it's these small liberties that were taken away. And we have to understand, too, that Germany did not have the tradition of liberty that we do. It did not have the history of liberty that we do. It was a little bit more confusing for them. And so they had this strong leader in the Kaiser, then they had the Weimar Republic, which they hated. Now they have another strong leader in Hitler. And okay, he's not perfect, but he's doing great things, and we're going to give him a pass on this, and this, and this, and this. And Bonhoeffer saw that there are certain principles when you violate certain principles, you're doing something that is horrific. And most people somehow thought, well, it's not such a big, don't make such a big deal. But the issue of religious liberty in this country, for example, today, the HHS mandate, most people don't even know what that is. It's this idea that the government is going to force Catholic institutions to use their money to buy abortion-inducing drugs. Now, whatever you think about that, whatever you think about contraception, the point is the government is saying we're going to use our power to fine you or throw you in jail or whatever it is, unless you say abortion is okay and you pay money for these abortion-inducing drugs. And people say, well, we think that's wrong. We don't care. We're the government. We're going to force you to do that. That's a violation of a principle of a person's conscience. So when a government says, I don't care about your conscience, for me, that's the end of America. That's the beginning of the end of America. Because we have been built on that religious liberty.
What if they tell you that your conscience is abusive to other human beings, that is intolerant, that is hateful, that is bigoted? Suddenly, what standard of morality are they drawing from? Where are they grabbing what has trumped what used to be some sense of a Judeo-Christian ethic? At least we knew kind of the standards. Here's where we'll draw our morals from, so we know what the rules are. That's gone. So where are they drawing these ideas from? That who you want to have sex with trumps a religious conscience. How do they justify that? How do we even get here, and why is there not an outrage towards it? Strictly as an American who says, I want the freedom of conscience.
Yeah.
The first line in the First Amendment must have been pretty important to the Founding Fathers.
I just think that there's a level of ignorance that most people don't really know, and I include myself in this, that we haven't been taught. Our generation, went to school in the 70s and onward, didn't really get taught the basics of what is America. So if you don't know what is America, what makes America America, what are these things, what does the Constitution say, if you don't know that, you're a sitting duck. You're just ready to be hoodwinked by people who say, well, that's not so important, and the Constitution's a evolving document, and don't worry about that. and that's kind of where I think we are. But I think people are waking up. I think to some extent the Tea Party has been a very hopeful sign that all these people are excited about the Constitution.
Yeah.
That's amazing, but that wouldn't happen if you didn't have an administration that is messing with the Constitution. So I'm generally hopeful.
You drew a line of synergy between Germany and what was happening to them and America maybe now. So where did they, or when, or what method, what element, what happened to where they finally collectively realized, oops, what have we done?
You mean
in Germany, and maybe is
some
there
of them are
parallel?
realizing it like this week, basically. I mean, it's a rolling. Some people realized it. I mean, this is not a joke. I mean, there are plenty of people who didn't realize it until after the war. They suddenly began to hear about the death camps and things, and
But was that by volition, or it was hidden from them, or they tried to sort of ignore?
I think it's complicated. I think we have to be fair. And again, if you read the Bonhoeffer book, which I know you
I
did,
did.
you realize that you have a
But
situation.
it was too long. I can't remember all those parts.
There were some good jokes in there, though.
Yeah.
But basically, a lot of people were ignorant of what was happening, and in this country, we don't have an excuse for ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
Many of them had excuses because you have a totalitarian government deliberately trying to keep the facts from you.
Mm-hmm.
So your average German genuinely did not know about the death camps or about the whatever. Some began to know, some knew, some were working there, but your average German had no clue. And if you said to them, here's what's happening, they would have said, oh, that's Jewish propaganda,
Mm-hmm.
that's international communist propaganda,
Mm-hmm.
because they'd heard that over and over and over again, that you're going to hear these things, they're not true and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So your average German was to some extent ignorant, but I also think there's willful ignorance, of course, that they were participating in their own destruction by being willfully ignorant because they so wanted to leave behind the shame of between the wars, the economic misery, the shame of losing to France and so on and so forth. They wanted revenge, they wanted to have glory again, and so it's where you're willing to follow somebody who you probably shouldn't be following, and that's really what happened.
Who are we willing to follow in this country that we shouldn't be following? How is there that parallel now, or does it?
I think it's much more complicated. The parallels, we have to be always careful because they're never direct parallels. They're interesting elements, but things don't happen the same way twice. To me, the real parallel is I would not compare our president to Hitler or something.
Right.
It's much more complicated. You have, in a way, the culture itself, the mainstream culture. When you turn on the TV, what's coming out of it, that worldview is something that's evolved over decades in this country, and so it's complicated.
Yeah. Well, and I've even said I can't really blame President Obama because he is consistent. He's who he's. His record shows this is who I am. Here's what I believe. Here's how I live, and we voted for him. So it's curious to me, that it just seems like we've had a pass for so long in America. We haven't been attacked. We haven't been invaded. We haven't been bombed. We haven't had, these incredible difficulties that so many cultures have gone through. We've had essentially the couple of people that border us are our friends.
Right.
We've been able to speak the same language. And we've had this amazing country. There's nothing like America. That's why I say it's the greatest nation ever. It's so unique. But I don't know that we're ready to fight. I don't know that we even know what that means anymore. I think that we look at our history and we admire it, but we think it's a legend or a myth. And it was real people that really didn't want to fight any more than you and I would. But liberty meant something to them. That they lived by this amazing point of view that there are some things in life more important than life. Now that's a very Christian idea.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem to be here. What can Christians do to, we can't restore this nation, by ourselves. There is an enemy. There is a pushback. There certainly is a much more secular influence. but we are called to redeem culture. We're supposed to find Eden again.
Mm-hmm.
Try. How do we do it?
I don't know. These are big questions, Brad. You realize that?
No.
These are big questions. I'm glad I didn't have any beer at the restaurant.
I know. I wouldn't have asked the big questions had I known you had beer.
How do we do it? I mean...
Well, how would we start? I mean, what would be the simplest methods? What is the most influence? I mean, I believe it's media. I believe it's through the arts.
I will say this, because my cab is waiting.
Yes,
Let
of
me
course.
say one more thing. Basically, I have a strong belief, and this is my life, that we need to be involved in the culture and in the media. And that we need to be winsome voices, that we can't just be angry, political all the time, but we have to be involved in the culture, trying to have a civil conversation about things that are extremely important. And of course, there are voices on the other side that want to shut us down. I mean, this recent Chick-fil-A brouhaha, the idea that government officials would sort of take sides, it's ugly to me. Because what they're effectively doing is saying, you people who share Dan Cathy's point of view, shut up. That's not an argument, telling somebody to shut up. But we're at a point where we're really lacking robust civil conversation on things that are incredibly important. And so I will tell you what I would like to do, right? I would like to have a TV talk show with higher production values than this video. Just a little higher.
Really?
And because I think it's important to be in the culture, talking to different people, not talking to people that I agree with all the time, talking to both sides and having a civil conversation and respecting people, even if they disagree with you. And I think this is key. I think that Christians in particular need to know that we're commanded to love our enemies. So if somebody disagrees with you, you're commanded by God to love them, to show them love and respect. And that's the most powerful argument that there is, not just to have a snappy answer. But I do think that fundamentally being somehow involved in the culture is important. And I begin seeing that happen. People are making films and so on and so forth. I hope there's going to be a Bonhoeffer film. We're working on that.
That'd be great.
But these are the kinds of things, that to me, it's about the culture, fundamentally. That's the answer. So being involved in the culture, being involved in the media, that would be the first thing. If I had money to invest, that's what I would invest in. If I had something to pray, what do I pray about? I would pray that God would raise up people to do that. That's it.
Yeah.
And by the way, you've been a great audience. Thank you.
Yes, I have. Well, that was just a little candid interview with my good friend Eric Metaxas, genius, bon vivant. He's beyond most of the Christian people I get to speak to a lot of times. I wish he was wearing pants. That I never understood. But you know what? He comes from Europe, so they have a different way of seeing things. But this was just a little opportunity for you to see the type of people that I like to hang out with. Smart guys, good Christian men, and caring about a nation that was started with a beautiful and amazing creed. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that God, in fact, would bless us if we would honor Him. That's what we're talking about today on Brad Stine and Aaron Metaxas, live in my own little, what is this? It's I guess it's a cubicle. I thought anything that wants to call itself a hotel in New York is essentially a cubicle.
Right.
I'm going on Fox and Friends tomorrow. But thank you, Eric. Love talking to you, brother.
Well,
and
my pleasure.
Love being with you at all times, as you know.
For wanting to know what I think.
I do. And next time, wear pants. Thanks.